Shabbat Shalom. Passover is one of the main feasts in the scriptures due to how it illustrates redemption, salvation, and the creation of God's people. Passover is a connection between God and a nation. You will be my people, and I will be your God. On Passover, we drink 4 cups of wine, which describe and represent the 4 stages of redemption from Egypt. This is based on the first verses from this week's Torah portion. I will bring you out from under the yoke of the Egyptians. I will free you from being slaves to them. I will redeem you with an outstretched arm and with mighty acts of judgment. I will take you as my own people, and I will be your God. From being a nation of slaves, without any natural chance of attaining freedom, we became a nation that bears the banner of faith throughout the ages. I believe that Yeshua took the 3rd cup, the one called redemption, and he said, "This is me. I am redemption." The Lord's Supper is based on the redemption of Yeshua the Messiah, who brings us out of slavery to sin and redeems us with his blood. In addition, I'd like to share a thought regarding the 10 plagues that actually start in Parashat Vayeira. We understand from the portion that after the plagues occurred, Egypt changed drastically. It was no longer a place of refuge in an event of a famine. In fact, post-plague Egypt was a broken country. I think that 99% of all commentators have tried to find the answer to the following question. Why was there a need for 10 plagues instead of one devastating plague in order to set the people of Israel free? The answer that the Torah offers is that you may tell your children and your grandchildren how I dealt harshly with the Egyptians and how I performed my signs among them, and that you may know that I am the Lord. The reason was simple. During the 10 plagues, the powerful Egyptian empire was humiliated together with all its idols before the creator of the world. God says, "So you may know that there is no one like me in all the earth." Everyone witnessed the might of God. God who controls nature and even death. God's intent is evident. Today we still discuss and learn about the exodus from Egypt, even after about 3,400 years. For instance, every week during Kabbalat Shabbat, we say, as a reminder of the exodus from Egypt. In the exodus, God revealed his might, his strong hand, his strength, his utter dominance to us as well as to our future generations. But I want to ask a deeper question beyond the focus of the 10 plagues. When I read our Torah portion, as well as the next week's, I immediately encounter an invigorating theological challenge. One of the most known sentences regarding the plagues of Egypt is, "For I have hardened his heart and the hearts of his officials." But the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he would not listen to Moses and Aaron. We run into an issue at this point. What exactly happened to Pharaoh's free will? Does God interfere with the heart and mind, deciding for us how to act? The question, therefore, arises, what will we be judged for? For our sin? Or for a hardness of heart that God chose for us? In fact, the question is, if God hardened Pharaoh's heart, what is he punishing him for? There are believers who claim that God chose who exactly will believe in him from the beginning. There is no free will. Everything is decided by the Almighty. It's been decided ahead of time who will be saved and who will not, which is known as predestination. Our belief is that every person has the power and the ability to choose whether to follow the path of God or not. We have free will, which is a gift from God. This idea is supported throughout the Bible. See, I said before you today, life and prosperity, death and destruction. And I have said before you, life and death, blessings and curses. Now choose life so that you and your children may live. Why would God say choose if indeed we have no free will? I believe that sin is our free choice. That we are the ones who seek out the sin and open ourselves to all kinds of temptations. One of the elders of our congregation once told me a humorous story that I want to share with you. A known rabbi entered the classroom in order to lecture, and he saw that his students were in the middle of a conversation that stopped when he entered the class. The rabbi was interested. What was the conversation about? But the students did not want to let the rabbi know. And only after much prodding did the students let the rabbi in on their conversation. Turned out that they were talking about how the evil inclination, Yetzer Hara, is chasing them and always trying to tempt them. The rabbi simply smiled and answered, "You have nothing to worry. For now, you are the ones chasing after the evil inclination." Sin exists inside each one of us, and we will be judged for our actions. The fact is that we have the ability to overcome sin, because if not, what then will we be judged for? Every person is responsible for his or her own actions. And we cannot blame others for our choices, our mistakes, or sins. But you must not eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, for when you eat from it, you will certainly die. In Genesis, we read that God commanded Adam not to eat from the tree. This means that there is a prohibition and options. God created man with the ability to choose and decide, even if it's not always what is best for man. God gave us the option to sin. But I want to emphasize the fact that God also gave us the option to choose what is right and holy. Let's go back to Pharaoh. How did God harden Pharaoh's heart without harming his right to free will? Some say that the hardening of Pharaoh's heart was a punishment. Pharaoh was an evil king, and he enslaved the people of Israel. Perhaps he reached such a threshold of evil and sin that God punished him and hardened his heart in order to bring down all 10 plagues on the Egyptians. I read an insightful commentary that opened my eyes to the fact that we tend to forget how Pharaoh actually made efforts to reach a compromise with Moses. During the negotiation, Pharaoh offered suggestions that seemed reasonable, but they contained only partial answers to Moses' demands. Moses rejected every suggestion. This exchange between Pharaoh and Moses may seem unnecessary, but if we read it carefully, we come to the answer of how Pharaoh's heart was hardened. We will dive further into this topic next week. Until then, Shabbat Shalom.